they're going to the playoffs. It's the Chiefs, right? Like, so do you still believe that they can turn this around and get themselves back to the Super Bowl, or has that ship sailed?
Well, we could blame the receivers every other week until now. Now it seemed like everyone caught whatever it was that the receivers had, including Patrick Mahomes. And that turnover that he threw was a great play by Jones. That pick six right here, it looks like cover 3, and he made an aggressive play because the flat defender wasn't going to make it out there, but that's not something that we normally see out of Patrick Mahomes. And as much as we want to credit that great Chiefs defense, they couldn't stop the run when they needed to. And I know it wasn't their fault, the reason why they lost yesterday, but you expect a championship team like that to get the ball back to their quarterback in those moments. I'm not optimistic for the Chiefs going forward, but a lot of what's happening in NFL right now feels like there are no great teams, especially in the AFC, with the exception of one team at the top on both sides. So, yeah, again, Patrick Mahomes is still on that team underneath all that slop that we saw yesterday. So they should be excited about that. They still have the greatest gift that was ever given to the NFL, playing quarterback, even though he played poorly yesterday.
They do, but what do they specifically need to do differently if they are going to maximize that, to actually take advantage of it this year?
Yeah, I mean, I think it first starts with a statement of the Chiefs are the most beatable they've ever been with Patrick Mahomes as their quarterback. And to answer your question, Graz, they have to stop chasing expectations. Right now, we're so used to seeing the Chiefs be a high-flying, explosive offense. That's not their reality this year. They didn't go get DeAndre Hopkins in the offseason. Juju Smith-Schuster is no longer there, who was a security blanket for Patrick Mahomes, opposite of Travis Kelce. They are a defensive football team. Their defense did play lights out. They didn't get the stop when they needed to, but they're a top 5 defensive football team. And I watched the Chiefs on offense when they were doing some of those trick plays, guys. And I'm like, you're getting way too cute, right? In order to be cute, like with the play calling, you first have to be cute on offense. And they're not cute at all, right? They're putting lipstick on a pig. So when I watch them go about this, I want to see them build their concepts on top of each other, try to play more high percentage football, get their guys in the right spots. And right now, I feel like with Andy Reid, they're dropping back to pass 69% of the time. That's the highest of his entire coaching career. They have to get back to running the football again. And I know running the football is typically the thing that everybody says they need to do. But for what the Chiefs have this year at wide receiver and the pass catching spots, they need to run the ball, play to their defense, and understand that they're not going to be the same teams that they were in the past.
Yeah, you always hear about complementary football and the way that it should be played, and that's exactly what Robert's talking about, right? Is you got to figure this thing out and understand. But I will tell you, from a guy who's been on some of the most explosive offenses in NFL history, it is a hard mindset to change. And what has happened for the Chiefs and to what Robert was just talking about, you feel forced to go make those explosive plays. They're 26 in the league in explosive plays. They miss Eric Bieniemy. They miss the attitude that he brought from the sideline. That go get him, here we go. And obviously their receivers aren't playing at the par. Yesterday, had Mahomes not turned the ball over twice, they win this game, right? Like that, so you can't blame that on the receivers, right? So as you look at this football team, Kelce being upset, slamming his helmet down, Mahomes on the sideline, everybody screaming. You could feel the pressure building. And by the way, the game started out with almost a missed handoff off the jump. So it wasn't like this team was just dialed in from the get-go. It felt like everybody enjoyed Christmas morning and then came over to the game and were like, the Raiders are an afterthought. We beat them 25 times in a row. I know it was like 12 or whatever it is. But here we go, and unfortunately the Raiders didn't get that message. They were in the hotel, all focused in and locked in, and came out and put the beat down on them.
Yeah, 2 things there.
Yeah, real quick.
First of all, Andy Reid, if you get the Hamburglar mad on the sideline and he's like giving shoves, there's some problems there in Kansas City. And then 2, I think this game honestly showed why they need the Sour Patch Kid, Kadarius Toney. Right? When he's not playing well and he's making drops and getting in and causing interceptions, he can really hurt that team. But when he's sweet, man, oh my gosh, he adds another element to that offense that they have been missing. And this is why I think Andy Reid is not willing to give up on him. They're struggling with and without him, so you might as well play him.
I appreciate the explanation on Sour Patch Kid. I wasn't following it. So, RG taking care of the audience there with some gifts for Santa Claus. Kenny Pickett will be the Steelers' quarterback next season. Is that an overreaction?
It is not an overreaction. I don't think Kenny Pickett is a lost cause. He has a winning record as a starter there for Pittsburgh. Now, if Mason Rudolph continues to lead Santa Slay like he did this past week, it's going to be a very interesting offseason. But whether they stick with Kenny Pickett or draft one of those guys high, they have to bring in an OC who's going to utilize this skill group they've been criminally underused this year.
One more win, and that Mike Tomlin streak of non-losing seasons continues for another year. Jeff, Saturday, the Cowboys defense will prevent them from making a Super Bowl run. Is that an overreaction?
It's an overreaction. Big time overreaction. Listen, they actually played pretty well against the Dolphins. The last drive was the one I was disappointed in, but this is not a team that you're going to be that concerned with your defense. They can rush the passer. If they can bull up a little bit against the run, this team can make noise in the playoffs.
Nick, do you agree with Jeff? Are you not worried about the Cowboys defense? You still believe they have a championship caliber defense after what we've seen the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the game against the Bills was horrendous and atrocious. That was ugly, but that was not something that we've seen from them week in and week out. And I agree with Jeff. They need to be able to get a stop in that last drive. However, you're playing against good teams, and they're going to come down to late game situations. They played well enough as a team yesterday to be in that game and to win that game. It reminds me a lot of that game in Philly that they lost, where it came down to the field not being an inch wider. It's those small margins that are sometimes based on luck and you can't control them that'll decide the game. There are no teams, again, I feel like a broken record, but outside of the 49ers and NFC, there's no team that's just far and away better than everyone else. And the 49ers can be beaten, as we saw last night.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at the Dallas Cowboys, it really just boils down to guts. It's not about scheme. It's not about personnel. It's about a mindset. So when you look at the guys that they have, DeMarcus Lawrence, Micah Parsons, Deron Bland, Stephon Gilmore, Jaron Kearse, these guys just have to make a decision that they're not going to get their face ran through. When you look at the Bills, they ran all over them. The 49ers ran all over them. The Cardinals, early in the year, ran all over them. To me, that's just a mindset from them, because when we get to the playoffs, Jeff, you know this, it's not so much about the X's and the O's anymore.
Right.
It's about the Jimmies and the Joes. The Cowboys have those guys. A plethora of them on defense. So when you look at them statistically, they're fifth in points per game, fifth in passing yards given up, and they're seventh in sacks. Right? They are playing high-level defense.
Absolutely.
But when they're playing against the best competition, for whatever reason, they go out there and they get deboed. They have to make that mindset change, and that has nothing to do with what Mike McCarthy is preaching. It has nothing to do with the great calls that they're giving on defense. It has everything to do with those guys making a decision that we are no longer going to get pushed around at the point of attack, and they got to start doing that.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. Ryan Clark and I talked about this yesterday on Get Up, and we talked about putting Micah Parsons back at Mike linebacker and what that does for their defense, right? And keeping him all off the edge at times on maybe first or second down to give them that guy in the middle who can really go sideline to sideline. And listen, get Miami a ton of credit. They performed when it mattered most. Third down, they made big calls. Mike McDaniel called a great game, especially that last drive. And then they finished with two runs that everybody in the business knew they were running, and the Cowboys couldn't stop it. But when you look at this defense, they are going to make some tweaks when it comes to playoff time. And I think those little things for them could be the difference maker in playoff games.
They've had problems against better teams. They've had problems on the road. Neek, do you trust this Cowboys team if it has to go on the road in the playoffs and win games?
Well, yeah, I think it depends on where they go. I think what matters less is whether they have to get on a plane to go play, but it's where that plane lands. If it lands in San Francisco, I don't know that I trust them. If it lands in Tampa Bay, I like the Cowboys. So I think it comes down to the opponent a lot more than it comes down to the crowd noise or having to leave the state of Texas.
RG, you buying the home road thing with the Cowboys?
No, I mean, I think it's a real thing. But like we talked about, the home field advantage for them is, that's out the wazoo at this point.
Yeah, Eagles would have to lose.
Yeah. So for the Cowboys, like I said, it just comes back to the personnel that they have.
Agreed.
We in the media, you guys are great at your job. We're all great at what we do, but we create these narratives that end up being talked about.
Right.
So it's on the Cowboys' radar that,
for sure,
hey, we're not good on the road.
Yeah.
But when you get into the playoffs and it's win or go home, away, that stuff doesn't matter anymore. So do I trust the Cowboys to win a Super Bowl? I mean, it's a massive no, because they've shown over the course of years that they're not equipped for that. But do I trust them to win one game on the road in the playoffs? Yes, I do.
And this other thing,
real
too,
quick.
man. Not scoring on the goal line for you pitch the ball
Fumbling.
out. It's a freaking wide open, and then the very next play you fumble it, and turn
Yeah.
the ball over.
Yeah.
Like those things,
the
you can't
one.
blame the defense, right? You got to make something happen.
Yeah, that was a very costly play for the Cowboys.
Got to
and they-
score this.
they
Pollard has
end up-
got to score.
End up chasing it the rest of the game. So we'll obviously see if the Cowboys can get their stuff together. They're going to be in the playoffs. The question is where they'll have to go and where those planes will land them.